All men have stars, but they're not the same things for different peoples. For some who are travelers, the stars are guides. For others, they're no more than little lights in the sky. For others who are scholars, sometimes they're problems. But these stars, those stars, they're all silent. You alone will have the stars as no one else has them. In one of the stars, I shall be living. In one of them, I'll be laughing. And so it will be as if all the stars will be laughing when you look at the sky at night. Only you will have stars that can laugh. And when your sorrow is comforted and time soothes all sorrows, you will be content that you have known me. You will always be my friend. You will want to laugh with me, and you will sometimes open your windows so that, for that pleasure, it will be as if in the place of stars, I had given you a great number of little bells that knew how to laugh. For those of you I haven't met yet, my name is DJ Wright, and on behalf of my family and our care team, our thoughts and prayers are certainly with all of you sitting with us today, as they are with all of you who are with us virtually today. I know we have John's sister and so many other people who are with us from many different states, possibly different countries as well. And Rosanna, the family, they all know that you're with them. They can feel your love and your energy. And we would encourage you, as we would encourage everybody here today, to take anything else that could be distracting, pretend you were sitting in this room, and really stay focused and stay present for our time together. Just a little kind of brief synopsis on what's going to happen. I'm going to preach at you for a little bit, but not too long. And then we're going to open it up to some family members who have some prepared remarks, but we're also going to open it up to the group as a whole. And as I tell everybody, this is a room of love. You can't say anything wrong. So don't think, oh my gosh, I wish I would have written something down. No, the best stories come from when you come just stand up here and speak from your heart. So we're going to do that in a little bit, and I just like to say that now because some people just wonder what's going to happen, and I want you to know that that's going to happen. And then at the end, we're going to give you all a chance to pay your respects at John's physical remains one last time before we all depart for the day. So, as Rosanna and I were talking about how to begin this day and what this ceremony would look like, we wanted it to honor John. And to honor John is to remind all of you that life is worth living, that you control your destiny, that you have the ability to make this ceremony something sad and depressing, or you have the ability to sit here and laugh and cry and laugh again and remember all that he was, is, and will continue to be. And that, I think, was what we settled on. So I have this Celtic poem, and again, we're going to go from different religions and different places across the world because John loved to travel, so why not? So our first stop is in good old Ireland, and it's a Celtic prayer. And I think it's very much what John would be saying to you right now. So I'm going to ask you all to close your eyes and think of John. Picture that cheeky grin and hear him speak these words. Do not hurry as you walk with grief. It does not help the journey. Walk slowly, pausing often. Do not hurry as you walk with grief. Be not disturbed by memories that come unbidden. Swiftly forgive, and let Christ speak for you unspoken words. Unfinished conversation will be resolved in Him. Be not disturbed. Be gentle with the one who walks with grief. If it is you, be gentle with yourself. Swiftly forgive. Walk slowly, pausing often. Take time. Be gentle with your grief. If you would all like to take the hand of the person next to you as we bow together in our opening prayer. O Spirit of life and death, Thou who art as present to us in our suffering as in our well-being, abide with us now in this permeable time between the dusk and the dark. Soothe the secret pains that we carry. Bless us with the courage to move towards our grief and not away from it. When all is hidden, when we find ourselves moving among the shadows, when we do not know the way, Heavenly Father, help to quiet our hearts and to still our restlessness. Help us to embrace the unknown and to hold the mystery, and to let ourselves be held by it. Abide with us now, O Spirit of compassion, as the power of healing, the assurance of peace, and the love that will not let us go. Let us all say, Amen. I would like to introduce now Laura Altman and Michael Newman, who are going to share with us some of their talents, of which John loves so much.
We'll play a piece by Johann Sebastian Bach that John loved.
Thank you both so much. I could think of no better way to start our time together than with that beautiful music. That too, that was pretty good. So, again, as we talked about what this day would look like, I must confess it was difficult because John was such a dynamic individual. He blazed trails wherever he went, and I will put this out there, I did not know him. Let's put that out first. I met him through his beautiful wife several years ago when circumstances dictated that she had to come and see me to plan for the eventuality of this day. And I remember even through her trials at the time, when she spoke of her husband, she was instantly transported to a new world. The light came back into her eyes. And it was a light that, had been dimmed a little bit because of what he was going through. And I mention this to start only because I know that John, in addition to his family, would want me to thank all of you who've been so supportive over the last couple of years during his time of trial. The support groups, the checking in, they really do make a difference in the heart of people's lives. And it really causes us all to focus a little bit more on living life. And I know that was a big deal for John, and he packed a lot in. So as I was debating, again, how to start today and what to say, I was struggling because there's the old funeral faithfuls, as Mother Ann can attest, there's some faithful things that you can read that make sense. And then I didn't want to do that. But then I thought, the best things in life are the people we love, the places that we've seen, and the memories we've made along the way. That was your husband. That was your father. That's your grandfather. That's your friend. He made memories wherever he went. So I'm going to go back and I'm going to read one of the old traditional funeral passages because a man who has blazed his own trail in life knows the meaning of this passage more than anybody. A man who has tried and failed, a man who has tried and succeeded, a man who has simply tried to do good, which is what John did, knows the meaning of what I'm about to read. And it's so good, the birds stole it and made a song out of it, which I think he would appreciate. Now I think some of you are shaking your head because you know where I'm going. Ecclesiastes 3. To everything there's a season and a time to every purpose under the heavens. A time to be born and a time to die. A time to plant, a time to pluck up that which is planted. A time to kill and a time to heal. A time to break down and a time to build up. A time to weep and a time to laugh. A time to mourn and a time to dance. I don't expect you all to walk out of here doing the Irish jig, but I do expect you all to walk out of here stronger than when you came in. How can you not? If I'm stronger for only having known John through his wife and children, how all of you who've been touched by his genuine love not leave here stronger? There's some hippopotamuses around, right? For those of you who are watching, there's a hippopotamus on every table. So before going too much further, I wanted to explain what that was for. John was a little guy, right? Thank you for the laughter, cue laughter. He was a weightlifter back in the day. And nicknames were abundant among high schoolers, right? He got the name Hippo. Nobody knows why. It stuck. And people started giving hippopotamuses to him over the years. Hence the enormity of the collection. But John was also an artist. And I know a mechanical engineer might not want to be called an artist, but he was in a lot of ways, and you know that. This quote by John Ruskin: "A man is born an artist as a hippopotamus is born a hippopotamus. And you can no more make yourself one than you can make yourself a giraffe." I read that because there is a time for everything under the heavens. And all of us who were born under God's guiding light have our place in the world. Whether we're a giraffe, whether we're a hippopotamus, whether we can play and sing beautiful music, or whether you're a professional shower singer like myself. We're all given God's gifts to use to the best of our ability. John touched hearts wherever he went. Whether it was rice in Mexico, whether it was cell towers in the Caribbean, whether it was showing his grandsons a little bit about life, whether it was cheering on his granddaughters singing. Whatever it was, he made the most of that moment, of that situation. What a brilliant way to live. We get caught up in stuff sometimes. And those of you who know me know that I often say, stuff is great, but our graves are the same size. I'll say that again. Stuff is stuff. Our graves are the same size. What matters is this. It's the love, it's the connections, it's the friendships, it's the fierceness with which one lives life. And no one can argue that John didn't live life with a zealousness that kind of makes me tired looking at all the things he did. But I go back to what I said in the beginning. He tried. If you read this on the wall, this is a bio that he wrote himself, and I thought it was so John-esque. I imagined him sitting there writing it with his whimsical sense of humor. He accomplished a lot. But what I took out of that, out of all of the stuff, was he tried. Every day he got up, he tried to make the world a better place, a little bit more compassionate, a little bit more loving, a lot more thoughtful. At the end of the day, he tried. I would say he succeeded most of the time as well. And when he didn't, he learned. So I leave you all with what I think John would leave you all with. If a giraffe is just as good as a hippo, what are all of you doing with whatever you are and whoever you are to make this world a place where a giraffe and a hippo can exist in harmony? What are you doing to bring God's light into this world? Too often we think we have to do something that is what we think prestigious. We have to become president of the United States. It's a great aspiration. But sometimes just helping a young lady up the flight of steps is just as good. Giving grandma that extra hug like you guys all did before without any prompting is just as good. Checking in on each other just because is just as good. You all have your individual graces. So I ask you, in John's name, how are you going to use them? As I said before, we're going to hear from some family and friends who have some different stories that they're going to share. And I'm going to ask Adam Beater, his son, to come forward and share with us some of his thoughts and his memories.
Thank you. And Michael and Laura, John would be so pleased to hear you play here today, and it brings us all so much comfort. Thank you. This is my story about John, the highly abridged version. I first met John shortly after he started dating my mother in 1995. I was really skeptical at first. I mean, who could be good enough to date your mother? Particularly my mother. Things were clearly getting serious, and one night she invited me to join them for dinner. We went out to a restaurant in Clinton, and I was in college at the time, and meant any opportunity to get a meal at a real restaurant, I said yes. I was so grateful to be taken out to eat, and for the first chance I got to meet John, this wonderful man that my mother had been talking about for probably months at that point. I tagged along on a lot of their dates for a long time, maybe months. And I really got to know John. Not only did he put my mom on a pedestal and treated her like a queen, which I appreciated very much, but he was kind, and he was smart, and he was generous, and he was very funny. And he was very good, and frankly, who would tolerate their date bringing their son around on their, So he was very patient as well. They soon got married. John asked my mother to marry him, and it was her saying yes and him asking was probably two of the best decisions the two of them ever made in their lives. For those of you that know John, you know he was a great storyteller. Sometimes for John, the story was just entertainment. He really knew how to capture a crowd. But oftentimes there was something to learn from his stories. I learned a lot from John about how to tell a story. And my kids all know that when Dad sits down and starts telling a story, usually there's going to be a lesson to learn. John was kind and thoughtful, and he went out of his way to make other people happy. And I'll give you an example. When he married my mom, he made sure that JP, his oldest son, and I were part of the event, Ian as well, and all of our needs were respected. Shortly after my mom got engaged to John, he hired me for a summer job working at Performix, where JP and I worked side by side for a summer. We spent hours together, every day assembling computer parts. Not something I ever want to do again. But it was a brilliant move for a man that was trying to blend two families together with adult children that were set in their ways, moving two strangers into their childhood homes together. It was awkward. JP, Ian, and I, we found our way, and I couldn't ask for two better stepbrothers. Today, JP, Joe, and Caleb, and Thaddeus are such a wonderful family. And Ian, I can't wait to meet your baby. The warehouse at Performix was filled with hard workers who needed a break in life. Many were recovering addicts, and John had given them a second chance in life. They loved him, and John got as much out of it as they did. I learned a lot about addiction recovery from John, who was sober for about 15 years by the time I had met him, and for working with the folks at Performix who were going through those struggles early on in their sobriety. John accomplished a great deal after he left alcohol behind him, and his story, frankly, is an inspiration to so many others. John touched so many lives that you literally couldn't go anywhere without running into people that he knew. Later, when I started my career, John would occasionally take me out to lunch to mentor me. He was the first person to educate me on the value of building a network of friends and associates, which he leaned on in his professional and personal life all the time. He treated people in life with kindness and respect, and they were usually there for him when he needed a favor or a friend in return. These weren't transactional relationships. John was a genuine friend to just about everyone he met. He genuinely loved people and he knew the value of relationships and what they meant to him. It's part of the reason why when he had Alzheimer's disease, it was such a big blow to John and the rest of us. Slowly, Alzheimer's took his intellect and his memory. He forgot the stories that we all loved. His many friends and family began to drift away from him, and eventually he no longer recognized the people he cherished the most. But John never lost his sense of kindness. He was one of the most popular residents of the Foothill Acres Nursing Home Memory Facility. He said please and thank you. He was good to the staff and the residents. Alzheimer's disease can strip people of their social graces. It can rob them of their memories. But none of us were ever surprised to learn that John Perry, at his core, was always kind, thoughtful, and polite until the end. For more than 25 years, John Perry and my mom were happily married. And for 25 years, he was part of my close family. He officiated my marriage to my lovely wife. He baptized my children. We celebrated every holiday together and every milestone together. He was there for us in the best of the times and the worst of times. I'll miss him dearly, and I'll never forget how he touched my life. If you're here today, I bet you can associate with these thoughts. And I bet you feel the same sentiments about John. And I know he would be so pleased to see everyone here, and he'd be so upset that I'm sitting here crying over him. He would have much more enjoyed earlier when we were all laughing and having a great time. But thank you all for being here with us today, and thank you for sharing these memories of John with me.
Thank you so much, Adam. I'm now going to ask Lauren Brighton to come forward, and as Rosanna told me, she and her late husband got them together, and she's going to share some of her thoughts.
Supposed to tell that story.
Oh, are you? There you go.
Well, my husband Rob and John were friends, and they were each very bright and loving and extremely enthusiastic people. You couldn't keep them down, and my husband was like that his entire life. Unfortunately, he can't be here to tell you that because he died 18 years ago, believe it or not. I know, I can't believe it either, but anyway. I'm not sure how he knew that whether you guys were interested in each other or not, whether John said something or not, because, I wasn't always privy to what his plans were. But at any rate, he invited Rosanna, and then he invited John to breakfast, where we would always go for breakfast in Frenchtown. And it was called Mondo Mix at the time, in case anybody's interested. But anyway, so I actually have a picture, which I'm hoping all of you will get a chance to share, to look at. But it's the four of us sitting there having breakfast and having a lovely time. And you're absolutely right. He was a very entertaining man, very bright man, and a good friend to Rob. We started out in Raritan River Music Festival before it was even Raritan River Music Festival. But I believe that Rob was the one who brought John in. So he set them up even before he made the date for them. So, but anyway, so I personally will miss John, and I have missed him because it's been a while, But I will always have the good memories, as I'm sure you will. So, thank you for asking me to speak, and anybody wants to look at it, I'll leave it.
I'll put it right up here for you.
Okay, very good.
Is this the first date?
That's the first date. Exactly.
Wow.
Gorgeous people, right?
Handsome couple. I will place that on this table for everybody. Thank you so much. It's amazing how things happen, right? The connections, you never know. I'm going to ask Laura Altman, Raritan River Music co-founder, fellow board member, and of course a dear friend, to come forward.
Well, thank you, Lori, for mentioning the nexus of all our relationships, which is the Raritan River Music Festival. And I have to say, Rob Brighton and Lori Brighton were always fans of ours. I'm going to say even when we were young and we were playing in a restaurant, but we got a music festival together that's still going on. And John and Rosanna were a part of the people that were supporting the festival, and then they met because of good old Rob, who, yeah, he was he was the matchmaker, but he was just generally a person who, yes, like John, wanted to see everybody be happy. So I would say a lot of things that have been said about John I found to be, yes, profoundly true, that he did really just want to help out, and he was very good about it. He didn't say no, like that's not something I'm going to do. And there were some things at the Raritan River Music Festival that a lot of people would have said, no, I'm not going to do that. There were a few, there was a toilet plumbing incident one time, and some misbehaving audience members, and he used to sell the tickets at the entryway, and that could be tense. And John just was unflappable. Like, he was so calm and reassuring and always with a smile, and no matter how much people were getting frazzled, he was never frazzled, and he never snapped back at anybody. He was really great to have there. Plus, he kept track of the money, and he always was very careful about making sure that, you know, all the receipts came in, and he served on the board. And I would say I felt like he was one of those people. He was older than me, not tremendously, but more experienced for sure. And like, I don't know everything John did, and I always have a feeling there's a lot more that I don't know than that I do know. But he kind of knew the way life works, really. And you know, he was a serial entrepreneur for sure. And yes, he had some successes and some failures, and he knew the way people could really be, truly. And I think maybe that's one reason why he tried to help, because he'd seen a lot of bad stuff too. He'd seen how people could be not so great. And he, I think, felt an obligation not to be contributing to that kind of situation in life. But one of the things I remember, well, he was always at our board meetings telling us, like, what's the law here about how things should be. I don't always know if he actually knew what the law was. But he would say it like he did. And we would always believe it, because he had such authority on that subject of, like, running businesses and blah, blah, et cetera, about the law. But also he knew about being an entrepreneur, and that's kind of like, the Raritan River is a very entrepreneurial venture. I think that's partly why he helped us, because he recognized, you know, how entrepreneurial it is, even though it's a nonprofit. But one of my favorite things that he taught us, one of my favorite sayings of words to live by, and you can go out of here knowing these words to live by is the most important words almost that you can know, which is, you can always tell who's the owner of the business, because at the end of the day, that's the person holding the mop. And like, true. Yes, that is profoundly true. And there's a lot of levels where we can think about that. But, you know, in our tenure as the artistic directors of Raritan River Music, we have learned that to be one of the most profoundly true things he ever said to us. So I do remember him, yes, as a real great helper. And yes, I think sometimes it's better to be like that than to be the president of the United States, because you actually get to do something. So on that memory, I say that's how you can remember John that way too.
Thank you so much, and I thank you and Michael again for your thoughtful musical tribute to him today. I wanted to just read, and I hope you don't mind me taking the liberty, the email that was sent from the Raritan River Music out to its constituency. I thought it was so beautiful. It says, celebrating the passing of John Perry, Raritan River Music trustee, volunteer, patron, music lover. The Raritan River Music community mourns the passing of John Perry, a member of the award-winning arts organization's Board of Trustees, volunteer and patron since the early days of RRM. John was married to Raritan River Music Board President Rosanna Hunt, having been introduced by another early RRM patron volunteer trustee Rob Wright nearly 30 years ago. John was found to be at the Raritan River Music Festival concert venues long before each event, setting up and assisting at the box office and reception, and then helping with the cleanup efforts each night, holding that mop. His experience in board governance, finance, and education was invaluable in guiding the direction of RRM's ongoing mission to enrich the community through music presentation, creation, and programs of educational, therapeutic, and cultural enrichment. To date, over 1,000 presentations has served over 100,000 residents, plus millions more through media, video, recording, and internet broadcasts. And then it goes into the service information. But it goes to show how his heart was so dedicated and touched to the organization. And we thank you for your attendance today. I'm going to ask a young friend and business associate, Jorg Klauby, to come forward. People always write an old friend. I'm going to call you a young friend.
Yeah, I wish. I'm actually 2 years older than John. Thank you for giving me the mic here. I know John, or had known John for over 25 years. As a colleague, we worked together in 2 companies. One of them was the one mentioned by Adam, Performix. I remember the day when I started there and met John, we immediately got contact, which is like John was. He can establish contact with people instantly. Well, after about 3 months at the job, he came to me and says, "What do you make here?" So I told him my salary. He said, "That's not enough." And he said, "My own salary is not enough. Let's go together to our boss and ask him for more money because it's not enough for us." Well, he did, or we did, and we got a good salary increase. That was John. He took the bull by the horn. I also know John as a minister. He married Linda and I in Pennsylvania in a nursing home because Linda's mother could not attend any other location. And from there on, we went over to Manasquan and we embarked on a ship, and we had another ceremony on the ship. So then I know John as a friend, of course, for 25 years. We shared many funny moments. One was, for example, when one day he called me and says, "Do you have time this afternoon? Let's sit together. We have to plan." So we mapped out at the kitchen table a scheme how to set up a telecommunications company all throughout the Caribbean on a yellow pad. We came up with a really good organization, which later on was a company JP worked for too in Trinidad. So in knowing somebody in so many different circumstances gives you a good picture of the man. I learned that John was a very generous person, a courageous person, and a person who understood people. I also think he understood himself very well. That made it easy for other people to be with him. It was a privilege to know John, and I thank John for helping to enrich my life. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I want to again invite anybody in our audience who wishes to come forward to share a thought or a memory. I would just ask that you introduce yourself, let everybody know how you knew John, and just speak from the heart. Is there anybody who would like to come forward? I know they were hard to follow, right? They were all so good. Okay. Well, I know the stories will certainly continue, and for those of you who were watching virtually, I would encourage you to go to our website and share a thought or a memory there. And if you don't feel comfortable doing it out where the world can see it, get out a piece of paper and a pen. I know you youngsters might not know what that is. It's an old writing thing we used to use in the good old days. But write something down from the heart, drop it in the mail, send it to us, and we'll make sure the family gets it. I know that can be a very powerful way to express yourselves, and we encourage you to do that. Before our final speaker, I'm going to ask you all to, once again, close your eyes and just come to a peace in your hearts and try to feel this next piece of music the way John would feel it, the way John would see it through his closed eyes.
And of course, with all the Cuban cigars around, we had to share some Cuban music with you.
A writer and a pilot, Jose Maria Velasco Ibarra, wrote, "Pilots are a rare kind of human. They leave the ordinary surface of the world to purify their soul in the sky, and then they come down to earth only after receiving the communion of the infinite." There's a lot there to unpack, I agree. But I wanted to read that before our next speaker, because our next speaker and John, from my point of view, my visual perspective, seem to go to that very unique, beautiful place that most of us can never know. Most of us aspire to, but getting there, if you can get there, is probably the most beautiful vantage on earth. I'm going to ask his beloved wife to come forward and share with us some of her thoughts.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for coming today. Some of you made real sacrifices to be here with us. You have all given up your Saturday afternoon, and I am so grateful. Yet some loved ones are unable to be here in person, and thanks to modern technology, you can be with us live online. How wonderful is that? All of you have eased our sorrow with your smiles, your hugs, your care packages, your notes, your visits, and your reminiscences, and your playing. Reminding us that we are not alone in this sadness, that we are, in fact, in this together. There's a saying that old age ain't for sissies, but I would add that death isn't for sissies either. It's hard, and it's sad, and it's lonely. Yet it's universal. It's part of life. Death stops us cold and focuses us on what's most important in this world. Not stuff, or money, or status, but family, and friendship, and love. And in the end, it's love. We hold John in our hearts together through love. He, our love for him, his family, and our life on earth are what bind us together today. So when you go home, hug your sweetie, play with your dog, with your children and grandchildren, dig in your garden, play a tune, or paint a picture, and in your own way, savor the gift of your life on earth. For it is truly a gift, and we would be most ungrateful not to enjoy it to its fullest. I'll leave you with a thought from Alan Sachs. Death is more universal than life. Everyone dies, but not everyone lives. John lived. Thank you.
Again, a special thanks to all our speakers, and I'm going to change that a little bit. John lives, and that he certainly does. It's always beautiful to me as I walk around straightening chairs, cleaning up tissues. I get to listen to the stories that you all tell. John literally touched hearts. And that is how we certainly remember him. As I was debating on how to conclude today, again, several different things jump to the forefront. And it all goes back to what would John want you to hear. And of course, wisdom from a hippopotamus will be the very end. But how I think we can honor John in a very real way is to start that actionable way of living that I spoke about before. So you all are going to have a little homework tonight. 2 parts. One you're going to think about and do probably at a later date. The other you're all going to do tonight. The first is taken from our Jewish brothers and sisters. And it involves, if you go to the funeral of somebody who is Jewish, you have an obligation within 1 year of the date of the burial of that person to do one random act of kindness that you wouldn't ordinarily do, and then tell the person who you're doing that kindness a little bit about the person you're doing it for. You kind of see that trickle-down effect. It could be as simple as buying the lady at Dunkin' Donuts in front of you a cup of coffee because she can't get her change out, and saying, you know, I do it for John because I've seen him do it 100 times and it's a good thing. Or you could all get together on a birthday or an anniversary and go up to Grow a Row in Pittstown and pick all the fresh food for the local food pantry, which surely needs it, mind you, and do a day of service in John's honor. You could all get together and mop up at one of the festivals one night in John's honor. But the key is to tell the people you're doing it for the 30-second elevator speech about John, and then tell them that they can pay it forward by doing a random act of kindness themselves for someone they love and care about. Now, I'm not foolish enough to stand here and think that 500 years from now people are going to go around saying, ha, this world's a better place because of John Perry. Of course not. But in reality, yes. Because the ripple that John created, the ripple that you and I create, makes change for the better. And if every one of you 100+ people in this room goes out and does a random act of kindness, and all of those people do a random act, do you see where this domino effect goes? Isn't that the world John tried to make better? Isn't that the world we all aspire to live in? To celebrate, to mourn, to honor John is to live our lives in an actionable way. And then the final part of that is, after you do it, you got to get out that pen and paper, write down what you did, and get it to Rosanna. Let her know what you did. Think about it. One day you all are going to be sitting in the front row of a place like this. That's the reality of life. How would you like to go out to your mailbox and get something about somebody you love, just randomly reminding you that they made a difference? I know John would have been one of the first people to make the phone call and to go out and do it. I know that, and most of you know that too. Think about how you're going to honor him. And if you don't have their address, send it here to the funeral home. We're happy to forward it over. The second part is something I'm going to ask you all to do tonight. Let's face it, we don't live in a world where we're all neighbors anymore. I know all of you are going to go back to life, and it's going to get very busy, especially for a certain young man in the front who we are very excited for, and I think we'd be remiss if we didn't acknowledge that there is a little bundle of joy on the way that I think John is going to guide into this world very gently, very soon. I don't know if it's a boy or a girl, but we're excited for both. Maybe two. I don't know. See the look I just got on camera, folks. But we remember you in our prayers for that. But I want you all to go wherever you go. About 9 o'clock tonight, I want you to go outside and I want you to look up at the stars. And I want you to remember these words from the Little Prince. All men have stars, but they're not the same things for different peoples. For some who are travelers, the stars are guides. For others, they're no more than little lights in the sky. For others who are scholars, sometimes they're problems. But these stars, those stars, they're all silent. You alone will have the stars as no one else has them. In one of the stars, I shall be living. In one of them, I'll be laughing. And so it will be as if all the stars will be laughing. When you look at the sky at night, only you will have stars that can laugh. And when your sorrow is comforted and time soothes all sorrows, you will be content that you have known me. You will always be my friend. You will want to laugh with me. And you will sometimes open your windows so that, for that pleasure, it will be as if in the place of stars I had given you a great number of little bells that knew how to laugh. Can't tell you where John's going to be for each of you, but I promise you, if you go out there tonight and look, he'll find you. All those that we loved, some other people that each of you have loved, they may find you too. And remember that everybody in this room, everybody watching, they're all going to be doing the same thing. And find strength and find hope in that reality. Again, on behalf of the immediate family, I can't begin to thank you enough. It's been a tough couple years. Life isn't perfect. But when the tough stuff comes, it's amazing the love that comes out. And all of you have really made this process manageable. And please know of the sincerity of that statement, because I've heard from the family a lot of the stories, the texts, the calls, the food. You have made an impact. And I know that will continue long after this day, but please know of their thanks and appreciation to each of you. Before this final reading, I just want to let you know what's going to happen. After we conclude, we're going to invite everybody to come up. Members of my care team will call you row by row. I would ask that you remain seated and in silence until your row is called. At that point, if you wish to come forward, we're going to have you come forward via the aisle in which I'm standing. You'll pass by, you'll have a moment with the urn, and then you can just exit the building to your cars. If you didn't have a chance to sign the guest book, which I believe most of you did, please just ensure that you do that. If you would like an additional prayer card, bookmark, or life legacy booklet, please feel free to take as many as you wish. Also, as you come forward, I'm going to be giving all of you a puzzle piece that says, thank you for being a part of John's life. You never know where you fit, but we all take that place in people's hearts and lives. And I would remind you all, as we spoke about Ecclesiastes and John's life, living life, how are you all going to make your puzzle piece fit for the better in somebody else's life? And when you need some help from above, remember how John fit in yours and how you fit in his, and how his thanks and love continue to walk with you all until we're all joined again in that place where there's no pain, no suffering, but only light, only peace, and only hope. And as you come forward, we're going to ask you all, I can't even look at Rosanna because I'm going to laugh. I'm going to ask you all to take a hippopotamus. Some of them have a little sticky on the bottom, a green one, a pink one, a yellow one. If it has a sticky on it, that means the immediate family has already claimed it. But if it doesn't have a sticky, it's yours. They really would love for you to take a hippopotamus home to remember John. I need you to look around, because right here on the table, and I know some of you are going to come up and feel weird about taking a hippo off of John's urn. It's okay. They really do want you to have one. I promise. The ones behind our musicians are already claimed. That's why I stuck them back there and did a little rearranging. But please do not be bashful. John was a giver. He was a doer. He really would love for you to take a hippopotamus. There's some on the tables there. There's some up here. Please, as you come forward, right behind me, take a look. And I want to read and conclude our time together today with wisdom from a hippopotamus. The internet is full of great things. But this, to me, is John. I didn't know John young. I didn't know John older. I've learned about him through all of you. And as a matter of fact, I have a few changes in my own world I want to make because of him. And many of you have been here many times, and you don't hear me say that too often. But I can only think of John's high school buddies. And remember, it's a different era. In a better way, before cell phones, when we actually talked with one another, when we knew the value of giving a hug to somebody, when we thought with our hearts a lot more first. And I think I know now why he got the name Hippo. I got it. Wisdom from a hippopotamus. Have big ideas. Check. Right? Charge ahead. Check. Make a big first impression. Check. I don't know about swimming gracefully in the water.
No.
No. Cross that one off. Take a big bite out of life. Check. Don't be afraid to open your mouth. Check. Live large. Check. John? So as you come forward to take your hippopotamus, think a little bit differently. And remember, a hippo has their place in the world. So does a giraffe. We're all special. We're all created by a good and loving creator. We just have to choose to use our gifts wisely. Being a hippopotamus ain't so bad. Again, a very sincere thank you to all of you, especially those of you who are with us virtually. I would like those of you who are watching virtually to know that tomorrow, the beautiful video tribute montage that's been playing throughout the funeral home will appear on the website that you're on now. It won't have the cool music that Rosanna picked out because I don't want to go to jail for copyright infringement, but it will have some beautiful music that is royalty paid so we can play it, and that will be up there in perpetuity. And also for some of you have asked for those who were unable to be part of our ceremony today, in about 4 days, everything that was said here today, along with all the beautiful tributes. So for those of you, again, who are watching virtually and didn't get a chance to see all the little things that really brought today together, we will have that tribute finished, and that will be up on the website in perpetuity as well. So again, for those who couldn't be with us today and would like to watch it, at that point you'll be able to do that again in perpetuity. So again, I'd like to thank you all on behalf of John's family and encourage you to just remain in a state of silent prayer and thought as those who are coming forward to pay their respects at the urn have a chance to do so. Thank you all. Please travel safe. God bless.
We'll leave you with some music that Rosanna picked out today. Both she and John loved the music of Spain, so we're going to let you dance out with a malagueña.